Good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Westwood Select Board. It is Thursday, June 4th, and we are convening the meeting at 4:34 p.m. I want to start with a few announcements under Chairman's update. First, we have received notification that effective May 21st, when Governor Baker officially signed into order, we are now and forevermore the Select Board of Westwood. People may recall town meeting in May of 2019. We had a warrant article seeking approval from town meeting, which we received. And that was a home rule petition going before the state legislature. And sometimes things take a little longer than others, and this one took a little while. But here we are now officially able to change all documentation and records of the town for May 21st going forward as the Select Board, even though in practice we were still referring to ourselves that way. So that's now official. Next update, I would like to say loud and proud how happy I am for Dottie Powers and the town clerk's office and everyone who participated in executing a very successful election day on Tuesday. By all accounts, people felt that the measures taken to provide social distance, gloves, unique pens to everybody, people working that day, it just sounds like it was done extremely well. And I thank you, Dottie, and I invite you if you want to make a comment about that day, because it really was a big deal to pull off that election.
Thank you, Nancy. It was a great day. There was a lot of work involved, but we wanted to ensure our voters that they were going to go into a safe environment for them and also the staff. And we still had a pretty good turnout. You know, we had
all things considered
1,400 came and actually voted in person, and we had another 700 that voted by early absentee mail. So I want to
oops, you're hard to hear.
It was possible. It was a big team effort. And
great. Thank you, Dottie. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, you got a little staticky there for a moment, but yes, we did get it. Thank you.
Chris, can you make a note to update the Wi-Fi in town hall, please?
I was remiss. I just jumped in. I was so excited to thank you that I failed to do the proper opening procedures. We grant Westwood Media Center permission to live stream and video record this meeting. We are meeting remotely, as we have been for several weeks now, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of open meeting. So we are doing what we have been for several weeks now, and we'll continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So I just want to get the procedural items taken care of. So the next thing I would like to mention under Chairman's update, as many people know by now, and people know far and wide, that it's been a very difficult week of news in response to difficult events. And the Select Board issued a letter that I would like to read into the record. And right now we have Michael Walsh also in the meeting with me. I know John Hickey's coming in soon, but afterwards, Mike, I invite you if you have anything you want to say. But this is a first step just to be able to state a position, but also to invite people if they have ideas and suggestions on what the town can be doing. We are open and to those suggestions. So let me read our letter. It is as follows: why, how, what, when, where, who? These are the questions that our fellow citizens are dealing with across the nation. Why does systemic racism still exist? How can we tolerate witnessing the murder of a Black man at the hands of a few bad police officers? What might be all the ways we finally wipe the scourge of racism from our democracy? For all lives matter cannot be true unless Black Lives Matter. When we finally unite and can be the change, when can we finally unite and be the change that we seek? Where will it start? Who will lead the charge? What we have been confronted with in recent days is both horrific and a call to action. But how do we respond? Words are not enough. Words alone are never enough. Actions speak louder than words. We on the select board and in our community want to make a difference. We are a community that has always valued diversity, individuality, the right to free speech, and the right to gather safely and lawfully. We have an outstanding police department, and we hold all the men and women who work for this department and the entire town to a high standard of professional, civil, and equitable manner of policing. We are proud of the way they conduct themselves in their mission to provide the town of Westwood with the highest quality of service. Our town is full of compassionate and good people. We are horrified by what has transpired in Minneapolis and throughout our country, including the city of Boston, with a few choosing to ruin peaceful, respectful, and lawful protests with unlawful acts of looting, vandalism, and more. Accordingly, we ask all of our residents to commit to treating all people equally and to commit to addressing and stopping any and all treatment of anyone with discrimination and violence. Enough is enough. Let us reflect on our own lives and empathetically ask ourselves to question whether our privilege is indeed causing a blind eye that furthers the systemic inequality of our friends and neighbors have lived with for all too long. In these days of social distancing, it may seem even more difficult to know what action to take. So we are committing as a select board to ask ourselves, if not now, when? And if not me, who? We ask you to join us. So that statement has been issued. It's posted on the town website. It is purely that. It is a statement. It is not full of action items or next steps, but we have to start somewhere. And we as a board agreed to have our town administrator issue this letter. We haven't taken a procedural vote, and we won't at this time. Our names are on the letterhead because we are concerned and we are trying to take measures as leadership in this town to make a difference. So, Mr. Walsh, I invite you if you have any comments you'd like to make.
I don't have much to say except that, I know via Facebook today, people were reaching out to me about the letter. So what I would just say is we invite any suggestions people might have because we are here to listen. And I think it's an important statement that we made. And I think what isn't clear is that Chief Silva did, of course, see this and participate in its wording. So I think that was lacking, but I think public should know that was a part of the decision.
Well, and also there is a statement by the Mass Police Chiefs Association that represents a statement of police chiefs throughout the Commonwealth. So there have been many things that have been said and stated by many different people in authority or leadership throughout the Commonwealth.
But I think if people have any suggestions as to how we can make Westwood more welcoming, we're always here to listen. As
Correct.
Mr. Hearn used to say, the front door is always open.
And the figurative door is open in these days of COVID. And I would say there is a select board email address that you can find on the website. And there are many ways to reach out to the community, to Mr. Coleman on our behalf. And we are open for those, to receive those items of input. And I do want to add that I think organically, people have put together a vigil scheduled for Saturday afternoon, a peace and justice vigil. It is taking place Saturday, June 6th at 5 p.m. Location is the intersection of Gay Street and High Street, so the surrounding sidewalk areas. Please, everybody, be safe. Position yourselves wisely. And if you're so inclined, this is a vigil scheduled for this weekend.
Nancy, I don't know if you can see it, but John has joined us.
I can't see that. I haven't seen him come on. Thank you.
He is, yes.
John?
Hi, thanks, Nancy. Yeah, no, I was a few minutes late, but thank you for reading the statement. And I know you and Chris and Michael, we all collaboratively came up with what I thought was a great statement. The draft of it really captured my sentiments, and I've received a number of emails. I know we've received a number of emails through the Selectman's office of people who felt the same way. So I appreciate it, and I think it captured some sentiments, and there's quite a lot of emotion in the air, and we're all trying to work our way through this. So thank you to all of you for your efforts.
Thanks, John. Okay, here's how I'd like to proceed with our agenda. We have 4 agenda items that are somewhat interrelated. We have a discussion on considering a quorum reduction and a potential vote to reduce the quorum for the annual town meeting. Then we have a review of the annual town meeting warrant articles, potential vote to amend and to accept or remove articles. And after that, we have a discussion vote for potential postponement of annual town meeting date, time, and location. And then we have discuss vote signed to post the 2020 annual town meeting warrant. What I'd like to do is go through these 4 items without actually doing any motions or voting action, if that's what we decide we want to do, until we talk about all 4, have input, and also open it up for public input. And then we can circle back to each item and take any action that we as a board deem that we want to take. Is that okay with my colleagues?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, Nancy.
John, are you okay?
No, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine, no rush.
Okay.
I just,
No, I'm good.
we have a lot going on here, so I have to, excuse me, go back now. Okay, so let's start with a discussion on considering a quorum reduction and potential vote to reduce the quorum for the annual town meeting. I would like to invite our town council, Mr. Ahern, to provide a brief update on what transpired with our injunctive relief that we sought in Superior Court.
So last Friday, we were in Superior Court on a Zoom call. A couple of people at this meeting were on that call. And the Regional Associate Justice Judge Thomas Connors issued injunctive relief, which will allow us to reduce the quorum from the charter of 175 to 25% of that, or 44. It'll also, if we want to do that, require us to amend the warrant articles and remove all those non-financial warrant articles. So it will only allow us to consider Articles 1 through 13 at annual town meeting. And it requires significant notice that's in the order to include the statutory notice of posting the warrant under 138.12, I believe it is, in the charter, but also to post it on our website, to place a robo code red call, which I believe one is in preparation, or if it's not already prepared. I would suggest that we also use the message boards, and we also post on our website that the town meeting has the date and the reduction in the warrant article and the reduction in quorum, so we give as full and vast notice as we possibly can to the registered voters of Westwood.
I would also add that we should post something at the high school Monday, which, if we changed the date, would have been the date of town meeting. So anybody who, for one reason or another, hasn't gotten the message sees something when they arrive at the high school. Okay, so I'll just comment briefly, and then I'll invite John and Michael to speak, that we as a board took a vote to ask town council to seek this injunctive relief. We did that at a meeting earlier in May, and town councilor Ahern was able to successfully get it on the judge's docket, and it was heard last Friday. on May 29th. So all this is consistent with prior action and a request on the part of this board. So we now have received what we sought, and that is injunctive relief. So I'll open it for discussion. John?
Yeah, I mean, I think first, Nancy, talking about removing the warrant articles. You want to talk about that first?
No, reducing the quorum, please.
Yeah, reducing the quorum. I mean, I think unfortunately it's a necessary evil. We've talked about it a number of times. No one is restricted from coming, and I'm hoping we get more than 175 people. But the reality is that we need to conduct the business of the town. We need to do things like get the road bond passed so we can, fix the streets that don't so desperately need it. It might be a good time. We might be able to capitalize on getting work done this summer where there's less usage of the road. So I think the benefits of going forward and ensuring that we can conduct the town's business and reducing the quorum is the appropriate move.
Madam Chairman, may I make a point of order?
Please.
Paragraph 4 in the judge's order, and I quote, "Nothing in this order is intended to, nor shall it prevent, hinder, relieve, or discourage any registered voter or any other individual from attending the town's 2020 annual town meeting, and no town officer, official, board, or entity shall limit attendance or participation in any way by virtue of this order."
Correct.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm hoping we get more than we need, but I think it's important that we have what we perceive will truly be, the interest and the quorum that we can manage at this time. So
Yeah, and it's very hard to predict. So
it's hard to predict.
Yeah, Michael?
No, I mean, I think it's absolutely necessary. And who knows, could surprise us, just like the town election, surprise us as well, that many people came out. And so based on where we hold it, they'll all be welcome. So I
And
don't see.
we'll get into further discussion on how we're facilitating numbers beyond the quorum to be able to, numbers of people, so those people can attend safely. So we'll get into that. So Mr. Hearn, are you saying that should we, and we aren't right now, we'll come back to it, reduce the quorum, there is built into this an understanding that we also reduce the number of articles?
It's not, it's part of the decision. You'll be required to reduce the articles. If you give me a moment, I'll find the prescriptive paragraph.
Please, because that is the next item on our agenda. That we would, should we take the action on the first agenda item, we would need to take action on the second agenda item, and that is to review the warrant articles and vote to remove several of the articles.
Paragraph 3, Pat.
It will, in paragraph 2 and 3, paragraph 2 states only the following 13 out of 22 2020 annual town meeting warrant articles may be taken up and acted upon with the reduced quorum requirement as set forth in paragraph 1. And it's the supplemental appropriations Article 1, supplemental appropriation Article 2, Article 3, which is the 21 operating budget, a municipal capital improvement article, Article 4, Article 5, the school capital improvement article, Article 6, the sewer capital improvement article, Article 7, the additional capital improvements for ambulance and safety equipment, Article 8, additional capital improvements to town and school projects, Article 9, additional capital improvements, Article 10, $325,000 for equipment borrowing article, Article 11, $125,000 to the stabilization fund, Article 12, $1.4 million to the OPEB liability trust fund, and Article 13, the road improvement bond for $4.6 million. Our paragraph 3 says, as through any remaining articles not identified in paragraph 2 above, the Westwood Select Board shall move to defer or postpone the same to a fall town meeting or to the next annual town meeting or to a special town meeting at a time and place to be selected by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with all the applicable laws, bylaws, and requirements of the Commonwealth and the town of Westwood after the COVID-19 panic subsides and after lifting the state of emergency. So you have some leeway when you want to put those back on and the process by which they can go forward.
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
No, I'm good.
So, Mr. Ahern, so just so the public is clear, so any article that we do not take up out of those 13, beyond those 13, would have to go back in front of FinCom for any special town meeting or annual town meeting in the
believe they
fall.
would well, so first of all, a lot of those came from boards that are like
Changing.
the planning board articles is going to be, the planning board's going to be reconstituted. So I think they would have to bless those articles, if you will, or approve those articles, or change those articles moving forward. And it would have to go through the FinCom process. The same thing for the articles that the select board did, although the select board is not changing its composition, it may choose to do things differently. The one I'm thinking about is the select board picked up the medical uses article. If the new constituted planning board wants to take that up, that may be a more appropriate and more fully develop it. That may be a more appropriate way to go. If not, you can have discussions and bring it forward in its current capacity.
Thank you.
I would like to interject right now for people who are interested in asking questions. I think the best way is to enter your question in as a chat. Is that right, Melinda? That's how it can be done?
Yes, it's formally called a Q&A. So if you see on the
Thank you.
bottom of your screen, there's the Q&A, and you can just type in your question.
Okay, so that's the way we've done it in the past. So if you can type in your questions, and Melinda will read them when I invite her to do so. Melinda works for the Westwood Media Center and is curating this meeting, and either she or Connor have been doing that regularly for us. So I just alert people that that's the best way to get your questions before us as we go into further discussion. Okay, so we've covered the quorum discussion. We've covered the annual town meeting warrant article discussion. Let's move on to a discussion regarding the potential postponement of the annual town meeting date, time, and location. Let's start with the date. So at this point in time, it's scheduled for Monday, June 8th. We have this on the agenda because we need to move it from June 8th, and there are prescriptive requirements that Town Councilor Ahern can refer to again for us or brief us on as to why June 8th cannot work, and then we can have a discussion about what we should move it to.
I can do that right now.
Yes, please.
The town charter, I think it's section 138.12, requires that the town meeting warrant be posted 7 days in advance of a town meeting. You have not yet voted to post and to approve and post the town meeting warrant article. Further, in the quorum reduction, there are requirements that you identify the new quorum, you identify the warrant articles, and that you not only follow the mandate of the charter, but you also try and find other sources specifically enumerated, and I'll read it if you want, to communicate to the registered voters where and what is going to be talked about.
Okay. So what is the earliest date we could have town meeting?
The day today is
The 4th.
Probably the 12th.
8 days from now, if we posted it as soon as this meeting was done.
If you posted it tomorrow, I don't think you're going to get a
Okay.
posting done tonight.
Okay.
Actually,
Dottie, we can't understand you.
Nancy, Chairman Hyde.
Yes. Okay, Dottie, try again, because there's something happens when you're talking sometimes. Try again, please. Oh, you went on mute. Dottie, you're on mute.
Might.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing with having it a week from potentially today is we still need a voter registration, and that's 10 days before. And the
Okay.
deadline for that is Friday, June 5th. So, well, if we were, no, you need 10 days.
Okay, at a minimum. Okay, there are two. We have multiple schedules. Okay. So really, we're talking about the 15th
It's
being the earliest if we didn't have it on the weekend.
Madam Chairperson, it's really dueling requirements. Dottie has registration requirements.
Yeah.
We have, and the select board has posting.
And we have to honor all the above. Okay, so Chris Coleman, Town Administrator, can you tell us what your recommendation is for, because I know you've been vetting this and looking into options and schedules of people and locations and everything else. What is your recommendation for the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So about a week ago, Town Clerk, Town Moderator, Ms. Healy, the Director of Health, Melinda from Westwood Media Center, our Facilities Director, and the Schools Operations Director, and and Pam Dukin was part of this organization as well. We met, we talked about the layout for town meeting. Previously, the same group met and talked about the layout of town meeting for an indoor, and we also talked about the layout of town meeting for an outdoor. And right now, what we are recommending, so the town clerk, the town moderator, and I, with the reduction in the quorum that the injunction that was provided, we are recommending to the select board to postpone the annual town meeting to Wednesday, June 17th, outside on Flahi Field with a start time of 5 p.m., with a rain date of Thursday, June 18th, with a 5 p.m. start time. The setup for the meeting will adhere to social distancing and other health guidelines, and our town moderator and town clerk are both participating in this virtual meeting, are working on providing a message to the community regarding such. And Madam Chair, if you were so inclined to ask the moderator and the town clerk if they would like to expand on what I just said.
I will. Let me start with the town moderator, Mr. O'Sullivan. Glad you're here. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you, Chairman Hyde. A couple of things. First, just as a citizen, I'd like to thank the select board for the leadership on the letter you read at the beginning of this meeting. There's more all of us should be doing in this regard, and I congratulate the three of you. Also, I applaud the select board for the forward thinking you took on May the 4th. I was present during that meeting. I would have bet my house that the legislation that's going through the State House would have passed by now. It has not. And had you not shown the leadership and voted then and authorized Attorney Ahern to file that complaint, who knows where we'd be today. I applaud Attorney Ahern for the great job he did last week. He drafted a very, very well-drafted complaint, very excellent lawyering, and because of his actions, we got greater relief in the order than we would get if this legislation passes in the form that it's in. We do have unusual circumstances because of the virus, and so I encourage the board to think outside the box and do things that we don't normally do. Hopefully, we won't have to do it again. I urge the board to hold this meeting outdoors. I just think it is safer for everyone. The governor still is requiring that meetings of more than 10 people not happen indoors, and I know town meetings are not subject to those restrictions, but they are good guidelines and we should follow them. We have to be concerned about the staff of the town clerk's office who are going to settle people in and register them for the town meeting. I'm concerned about disenfranchisement, but the reduced quorum is not what is going to disenfranchise people from attending town meeting. It's the virus that's going to disenfranchise people. People are going to come or they're not going to come because of fear for their own safety. My own informal poll is people that I've spoken to have told me they will not come if it's indoors. A lot of people are saying they will come if it's outdoors. I think we're going to have difficulty getting 175 to attend. I agree with Mr. Hickey. I hope we can get the 44. So I urge you to vote to conduct town meeting in accordance with the order that Judge Connor signed. And I encourage you to, if we're going to hold it outdoors, I agree with Mr. Coleman that it should be held earlier in the day, if only to avoid the mosquitoes.
And I will add that no matter what we do, these are not the best of circumstances. And that if we do end up taking action to move it outdoors, we're asking everybody to have a great deal of patience because we've not done this before. And we are dealing with very different setup requirements, technical requirements. We have a great team of people who will do their very best to make whatever town meeting we have work. But we do need to have a lot of patience and cooperation from the public who attends. Mr. Walsh, if you want to say anything, you're on mute.
Well, I'm okay with outdoors. I've had this discussion with many people, and I think Mr. O'Sullivan is correct. There are those that say we won't come if it's indoors, but we will come if it's outdoors. And so I think that would be an incentive to, not have to worry. My guess is we'll end up reducing the quorum, but this will allow people, and we may not have had to reduce the quorum. So I'm okay.
So to summarize what we've been told, so we're talking about Wednesday, June 17th, 5 p.m. start of the meeting at Flay High Field, and June 18th would be the rain date. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. So that's
So-
where we are on that one. John?
Nancy,
Yeah.
Nancy, I would just say, I think there's pros and cons to both, but the wind seems to be in the sails of having it outside. That's fine. I know we're all committed and we'll all work to ensure that this is a predictable process, that the integrity of the process is maintained. But I do worry about the weather, obviously, if we're outside. So, Jim, I would think as part of the publication of this, there will be a drop dead time on the 17th, should you be canceling. Because again, we're asking people to potentially leave work early. So I just want that decision about the rain delay made as quickly as possible, would be my ask.
Well, Jim is talking to the weather gods, and he's going to make sure it's a brilliantly appropriate day. Not too much sun, not too much glare, not too much wind, no rain.
Just like election,
Right, Jim?
just like election day.
Yeah, right, Jim?
And in an on-off day, I want people to know as soon as possible. I will be leaving work to attend, so I don't want to be waiting for a decision.
Yeah, and people are not all coming from home. Again, we've all got to be patient with this process. It's not an easy one. Any other comments from the board before we go on to the next agenda item? And then we'll
No,
circle
so-
back to
so-
everything.
Just to get back to John's thing, so do we want to pick a drop dead time where we'll decide between Jim,
No.
Dottie,
Go or
and
no go.
us? Like
No, I
noon
think
like
Jim
noontime?
can call that. No, let's not decide now. We don't know what we're dealing with. Jim, if you want to say something, be my guest, but I don't want to hold you to anything right now.
Well, I'll be in touch with Mr. Coleman. We'll be watching the weather forecast very intently starting on Sunday, the 14th. And if it does look like it's going to rain in the evening of the 17th, we'll make that call as soon as we can.
I think you have to use your best judgment. But we aren't there yet because we haven't actually voted to move it. So let's, we'll come back to all these conversations. There is a purpose in doing it this way. And the fourth item of this group of action relating to town meeting, I guess we can hold off on this one because once we take the other actions, to the extent that we do, we will then need to vote to sign and post the 2020 annual town meeting warrant. So there's really not much to discuss there. So at this point, Melinda, do you have any questions to read for us to take as public participation?
Yes, I do. 2 questions from
Do
the
you
same.
have, and can you identify who they're coming from if you have that, please?
Yes, I can. 2 questions from the same person. That's, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. It's Vicky Macrides. The first question was, can we pre-register people online so that they can check in without waiting? And then the second one, is there a reason it needs to be during the week and in the evening?
I'll start with, we're talking about 5 p.m. on a weeknight, and that's what is recommended to us after a lot of alternatives have been considered. Pre-registration, I will leave that to Dottie and Jim. Do either of you want to respond? Online pre-registration?
Yes, that's impossible to do. You would have to appear at town meeting in order to register to vote. There's no online registration for town meeting.
Do you have a way of describing how you think you're going to set it up, Dottie, or is that something that will be forthcoming and posted on the town website? I
Right,
know it will be posted eventually, but do you have anything you can provide now?
it will be posted, but we will have a designated area in which people can check in. We'll make it very easy. And the process should be very quick. And once people check in, they can go to their seats.
So you'll keep people socially distanced. Everybody will be asked to wear masks. Clearly, that is something. And Jim, I'll put that one back to you because I know you've given that an awful lot of thought about how you would manage elements of the town meeting.
Yeah, but I want to jump back to the question. The question is a little confusing. I'm not really sure whether Ms. McCready is talking about registering to vote in order to register for town meeting. Two different registrations.
Well, provide clarity. I think she was talking about that night.
Okay, you can't
but I'm
register.
assuming, so why don't you talk about both?
Okay, you can't register for town meeting ahead of time because the clerk's office is going to give you a registered voter sticker, and that's what's going to allow you to vote at town meeting. We can't let people register ahead of time, get that sticker because we have no control over what you do with it at that point. We just got to maintain the integrity of town meeting. In consultation with the public health director, people will be required to wear a mask at town meeting. There are certain exceptions under the governor's restrictions for people who, for medical reasons, cannot wear one, and we will deal with that accordingly. But we are urging everyone to wear some type of face covering and bring your own, please.
And in terms of to be a registered voter in town, which affords somebody the opportunity to vote at town meeting, Dottie, has the registration for voting for that already closed, or is there still an opportunity?
It will depend on the date. There will still be an opportunity. It will be
Okay.
because it's
If the meeting is scheduled for the 17th, would it be 10 calendar days before that?
Yes, it would be June 5th, Friday, June 5th.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, so I think we've answered both questions. Let me summarize. In order to be a registered voter who can participate as a voter at town meeting, the last day to register is tomorrow if we vote to move town meeting to the 17th. An answer to the question, can you pre-register to vote at town meeting? You're already a registered voter, but you're actually attending and you need to check in. Can you check in online in advance? And the answer to that is unfortunately no. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, and Madam Chair, if I can just add one more statement. This would only be for people that are not registered voters. So most people have already registered for the town election and have voted.
Yes, right. Yeah, if you just moved to town and you want to be a registered voter in Westwood and attend town meeting, you'll need to do so by tomorrow with the clerk's office, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So Madam Chair, there was another question there too. Is there a reason it needs to be during the week and in the evening?
Can you refer to who asked the question first, please?
Same
if you're gonna
woman.
do it?
It's the same woman.
So I think I already answered it, but say it again, Mike.
Is there a reason it needs to be during the week and in the evening?
As I said previously, it's starting at 5, which to me is the afternoon. It will roll into the evening if it goes past 6. A lot of consideration has been given by Chris Coleman in consultation with Jim O'Sullivan, Dottie Powers, Pam Dukeman, Westwood Media Center, and many people to come up with a recommendation. So there are a myriad of reasons, and this is what comes before us as the recommended date. So I don't know if you want to add anything in response to that, Chris, but seems to me that you probably vetted as many different options as possible.
Madam Chair, we did vet a number of different options, including the weekend.
Okay.
And out of respect for our religious organizations and the religious faith, we did not want to recommend a town meeting on the weekend. We know that there is Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night. We know that there's Mass on Sunday, and we felt that it would be best to recommend the town meeting to be held during the week. And because it's outside, we're trying to have it as early as possible, but being respectful as possible to those who are going to be working and traveling back, to have the start time at 5 p.m.
I would add, not everybody works a traditional day, and I don't know if that is an element of the question, but we also still have school in session, and people have children at home and schooling during the day. So we're trying to, I believe, find a spot where we think we can do everything we need to do. We usually have weeknight town meetings, so that is kind of the guiding starting place. We're moving it back. We can only move it back so far without creating significant other conflicts. And I don't think there's a perfect answer, but I appreciate and thank Chris and for him leading a review of the options. So I hope that answers the question. Melinda, is there anything else?
There is not. I just wanted to remind, if you'd used your phone to call in and you do have a comment, please press *9 and you will be able to be called upon if you do have a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just said, I hate to be the devil's advocate, but might as well ask the question. What happens if it rains both nights?
Well, then we've got to come up with a new plan.
That can happen.
That's
But
the element, that's one of the issues of going outside, and hopefully we won't have to deal with that, but if we do, we will. Jim, do you want to answer that? You're the advocate for outside.
Well, we'll do the best I can to make sure the weather's good. I'll work with Mike on that.
you know what they do? It would be like an Italian wedding. We'll be figuring it out. We'll be hanging out laundry. So
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, who wants to go first? Pat was mumbling first, so I'll let him.
Let the mumble go first.
Pat.
My feelings are hurt. No.
Trying to get a voice in, I know. Sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
I believe the moderator has authority to continue town meeting once town meeting opens. So that if we have a stretch of rainy nights on the 17th and 18th, I think, Jim, you're going to have to make a decision on when to reschedule a continuance. And I'm sure you'll do that in consultation with all involved.
Yeah, right. And we've got to remember that the town is going to be renting some equipment for town meeting.
I know.
And so if it does look like there's going to be a period of rain, we want to continue the meeting as early as possible so we don't incur that cost and just defer the cost to when we do conduct it. We'll be watching it as best we can. But we'll keep that in mind.
And there, unlike the election needed to be held by June 30th. The state has given us provisions that if town meeting isn't held by the 30th, we can go to a 1/12 budget for each month into the new fiscal year. And the budget would be based on the current fiscal year. So there is, I'll call it a cushion. It's not one we've wanted to use, as evidenced by going to the Superior Court to get relief from the quorum. But we do not have a mandatory requirement to complete town meeting by June 30th, but it is our fervent desire to complete town meeting by June 30th. So one of the reasons picking mid-month versus the end of the month is it still gives us options. Okay, so Jim, it rests with you.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Melinda, anything else coming in?
No.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Discussion on considering a quorum reduction. We've had a discussion. We've had input from people. We have an understanding of where we are with our option based on the injunctive relief from the Superior Court. And what is before us, we have a motion to accept the order and amend the quorum requirement to reduce it from 175 registered voters to 44. Any further discussion? Mr.
No.
Walsh?
No. Do you want me to say so moved? Because I don't think an official motion was made yet.
Why don't you repeat it? I just wanted to make it clear what we were acting
Sure.
on. So,
I move that the select board vote to accept the order of the Norfolk Superior Court to amend the quorum for this town meeting from 175 registered voters to, and I'll say this, a floor of 44 registered voters.
Second.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Mr. Ahern, is that satisfactory for that action?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go to, now we've adopted what the injunctive relief provided, which means we need to reduce our list of warrant articles. We've been referring to the financial articles as Articles 1 through 13. Mr. Ahern previously recited what those articles are. They are all financially based. They include the operating budget, several capital items, and other supplemental appropriations. Is there any discussion on this?
Nothing further,
Item.
Madam Chair.
No, I think it's the right move.
Pam, I'm just going to invite you to speak to acknowledge that we have included the correct articles.
Yes, that's correct. 1 through 13.
Thank you. Okay, motion please on that.
So I move that the select board vote to amend the warrant for the 2020 annual town meeting to only consider Articles 1 through 13, the financial articles, and to defer action on Articles 14 through 22 for a town meeting in the future to be determined.
Mr. Ahern, can we amend that to say town meeting or meetings? Because it's not required that they all go to the same meeting if we don't want them to. Or, like, let's say we had a special town meeting and a fall town meeting.
So
I just want to make sure we aren't tethered to a motion that we might want flexibility that we can't anticipate at this point.
So when all else fails, I refer to the order itself. As to any other remaining articles not identified in paragraph 2 above, the Westwood Select Board shall move to defer or postpone the same to a fall town meeting or the next annual town meeting or to a special town meeting at a time, place, and date to be scheduled by the Select Board in accordance with all applicable laws, bylaws, and requirements of the Commonwealth and the town of Westwood after the COVID-19 pandemic subsides and after the listing of the state of emergency. So the only thing you are tethered to is you can't bring them forward till the state of emergency subsides.
You cannot. Really?
I would say that's what this says. If we find we want to do that, I can go back and ask for an amendment of the order. But right now, no. But you're free to bring them forward any of the 3 places you want: a fall town meeting, the next annual town meeting, or to schedule a special town meeting.
So, Mr. Ahern, would you advise Mr. Walsh to amend his motion to reflect what the court order says, or are you okay with the motion as it was
No,
set?
I would advise Mr. Walsh to, and I will read it again, and Mr. Walsh, you can say so moved if you want. I would recommend that you make a motion.
Is that
as
paragraph
to
5?
Paragraph 3.
3, okay. Okay, so let's see, it's got to be a combination of 3 and the motion. So let's see. So I move that the select board vote to amend the warrant for the 2020 annual town meeting to only consider Articles 1 through 13, the financial articles, and to defer action on Articles 14 through 22, which are be considered any remaining articles that were not identified in paragraphs, Articles 1 through 13. The Westwood Select Board shall move to defer or postpone the same to a fall town meeting or next annual town meeting, or to a special town meeting at a time, place, and date to be selected by the Select Board in accordance with all applicable laws, bylaws, and requirements of the Commonwealth and the town of Westwood after the COVID-19 pandemic subsides and after lifting the state of emergency.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
I say aye as well, so that's a unanimous vote in favor. Thank you for your assistance on that, Mr. Ahern.
No problem.
All right, and now we go to annual town meeting date, time, and location. And these are all very important because we can't post the warrant without actually knowing what these pieces of information are. So we have discussed town meeting change of date to Wednesday, June 17th, with a rain date on June 18th, starting at 5 p.m. and the location being at the Flay Hive multipurpose field at the high school campus, with adherence to social distance and health safety guidelines. Any discussion, further discussion on this point?
Nothing further.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So I move that the select board vote as per the recommendation of the town moderator, town clerk, town administrator, to postpone the date for the annual town meeting from June 8th to Wednesday, June 17th at 5 p.m. with a rain date of Thursday, June 18th at 5 p.m. That would be the next night. And for the meeting to be held on Flay Hive Field, adhering to social distance and health safety guidelines.
Second.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
I say aye as well, so that's also unanimous. So that's great. We can move forward with that. And now to the fourth item of this grouping. We are being asked to sign and post the annual town meeting warrant, and it would be done so in accordance with the votes we have just taken. Is there any discussion, further discussion in general or on this agenda item at this point?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Oh.
You're okay, John?
I'm good.
Okay, please.
Thanks.
So I move that the select board vote to sign and post the warrant with a limited quorum floor of 44 registered voters as per the order of Judge Connors, no later than June 10th, 2020, and for the warrant to be posted by the constables throughout the town and online on the town website.
Second.
Madam Chairman, may I interrupt?
Please.
So, Mr. Walsh, I think I would ask you to amend it. So to just several things. I would ask that it's fine that you vote to post the warrant, but also included in the warrant, the 13 articles. And I would ask that, and I will give you a copy, Ms. Powers, if you want, of the order that reduces the warrant article and reduces the warrant article and reduces the quorum number. And that you not only post it according to 138, you also order that it be communicated via the website, via Westwood Media Center, via the message boards, and any other means necessary to get the word out.
Any other means available?
Correct.
Would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I'd like to amend it to include everything that Mr. Ahern just said, but let's see if I can do it. I move the select board vote to sign and post the warrant with a limited quorum of 44 as the floor of registered voters per the order of Judge Connors. It includes 13 financial articles in any method possible, including but not limited to posting on the town website, the warrant to be posted throughout the town,
Digital
any other
displays? Westwood Media
displays, and
Center.
any other mean that the clerk feels is reasonable to post, including the town website. And
Second.
shall include a copy of the order of Judge Connors
And the list of the 13 warrant articles?
and the list of the 13 warrant articles.
Is that right, Mr. Ahern?
I think that's good enough.
Okay, I'll second that.
Whew. Are we there? Okay, Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Amen. I say aye as well. Okay. Good luck, Tish, on sorting through all that.
Well, I'm just thinking that.
I think what we're doing is clear. It's just a little awkward to get there and get everything thrown in, but it's worth the effort here.
Well, I think that some people might want to see what the order was, from Judge
Yes,
Flores as
yeah,
well.
I agree.
So this is brave new ground for you as a board, so that it's a little perhaps not as smooth as it might be other years is certainly understandable.
Yeah. It's been interesting. Okay, everybody good with that? Do we need to do anything more?
I think
Okay.
legally we're good,
Okay.
but I'll leave that to Mr. Ahern. That's his job.
Well, I think he's been paying very close attention. We appreciate that, Pat. Okay, the next agenda item pertains to Chiara Bistro. Melinda, I believe we have with us the proponents of a request to grant permission for temporary outdoor seating.
Yeah.
And if you can let Steve LeCount
Yep, they
into
should
the
have
meeting.
access right now.
Okay, Steve, are you there? If you unmute.
No, they're unmuted.
Oh. Yeah, they don't have the microphone, so there's something wrong there. Melinda, do you see there's just a camera that's crosshatched, but the microphone doesn't appear?
I do.
It doesn't with a phone. Just, the microphone does
they're
not
on the
appear with
phone?
the phone.
Okay,
I will need to get their phone number. I'll be right back.
okay, we'll hold for a moment. While Melinda's doing that, why don't I just read what we're doing? And is Nora at this meeting?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Hi, Nora.
I am.
Okay, thanks for being here. Okay, so again, we have a request from Chiara Bistro to receive permission from us to have temporary outdoor seating located partially on a walkway and 2 parking spots adjacent to the building where they are located at 569 High Street for the remainder of the COVID-19 restaurant seating restriction period, which I believe is up until November 1st. If I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Nora? Oh, Nora looks like her.
November 1st, that's correct.
Okay, so that's the next agenda item. I don't know that we have Steve and Michelle on yet. Why don't you just tell the board?
Hi.
Okay, hey, Steve, are you there?
Hi.
Okay, we're just going, no, you don't have to say anything yet. We're just going through a preview. So if you can just please wait, and Nora's going to give us a quick briefing.
Okay, great.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, Nora.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so the town has been trying to work very closely with our local businesses during challenge time. A number of businesses are clearly suffering, probably none greater than our restaurants from having been closed for so long and then only open takeout orders. The phase 2 rules, which will come into effect shortly, have just been announced to allow only outdoor seating in the initial stage of phase 2. So while restaurants are planning to get ready for that, I think it took many of them by surprise that they were not going to be able to use any of their seating. One of the restaurants we heard from was Chiara. Chiara fortunately has some outdoor seating now. They have a patio with 4 tables on it. However, they need to cut down the seats at those tables to make sure everyone is 6 feet apart between tables, between servers and tables. They have to accommodate the very exhaustive rooms that are designed to make everyone as safe as can be in the pandemic. In order to do that, that reduces their outdoor seating on the patio to only seats. As you might imagine, it can be very difficult to open a restaurant to only serve 11 persons at a time. So Steve and Michelle have asked if they can use parking spaces on their property to have temporary outdoor seating that would add additional seats. They're proposing at this time to have 4 tables that would bring a total of 12 new seats for a total of 23 outdoor spaces at the facility. They're all within view of the restaurant. They're right next to the existing patio that's there now. We reviewed this with several members of the Economic Development, as well as with the Alcohol Review Commission. And the Alcohol Review Committee recommends unanimously that the Select Board granting an extension of the premises under Kiara's existing alcohol and CV license to allow for these additional 12. Actually, relocation of one of the existing tables and the addition of 3 new tables to the outside area. And there is a plan that comes along with their application that is submitted to the board. The plan has been closely reviewed by the police chief. It involves a barrier that will be placed around the outdoor area with very heavy stanchions, and it also, I believe it's 5 heavy planters, some of which weigh over 300 pounds, to be strategically located to prevent cars that are in the parking from accidentally bumping into the tables.
I'll ask you, Nora, and then Steve to confirm. Do we have support of this proposal from the landlord property owner?
We do. I turned a letter into Nora or Karen Flynn. They have
Do
a
you have
copy
that,
of
Nora?
that.
You do. Okay.
Yes, there's a copy in the file.
Okay. So, Steve, what would you like to add?
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for listening to us tonight instead of June 15th. You don't know how much we appreciate it. Secondly, we miss you all. Thirdly, congratulations, Michael Walsh, on your reelection and getting through that last motion. I don't know how you made it through that without an air tank. But
Okay.
and particular thanks to Nora and Karen. Nora's had to bear the brunt of my venting here and there via email, but she is fabulous at her job, and she just summarized everything to a T.
Okay.
The only thing I will add is that the police chief did ask for, I think, a total of 5 planters. We increased that to 6. And additionally, we purchased some reflective tape, which is like a neon color, either orange or lime green. And it has these big, bright orange arrows that reflect when headlights hit it as well. And we're adding those to the belt part of the stanchions that will be out there as well. And we're out there playing around today, kind of taking a look at it. And we actually drove our own cars in through there just to make sure that swing point was safe for the guests sitting out there. As you enter the property, that is where the heaviest planter is, which weighs about 500 pounds.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Steve. That's great.
Probably more info than you.
But you know what? Diligence is important, and that we appreciate that. Nora, did you want to say something else?
If I could add, Steve mentioned that the board was originally scheduled to consider this on June 15th. Under normal conditions, this would have required a special hearing. We actually advertised and sent out abutters notices for that special hearing. And then the governor instituted Executive Order number 30, which allowed for select board to take up these considerations without the usual notice requirements. It allows for suspension of zoning requirements that would otherwise come into play. And it also allows for the order, if approved by the select board, to take effect immediately rather than wait the normal period of review by the ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Commission, Alcohol Beverage Control Commission. So if the board considers and votes to approve the expansion of the premises tonight and issue a revised license to Kiara Bistro, it would be valid through November 1st. It would allow for these additional seats, and they would be able to begin use of these seats upon the governor's declaration that phase 2 of the reopening has occurred. The governor is expected to announce Saturday the 6th when phase 2 will open. All indications are that it could open as soon as Monday, June 8th. So I think the timing is important there, and that's why we asked the board to consider this tonight rather than wait for the hearing that we had previously scheduled. And then just one other point I wanted to raise that I don't know if this actually requires a motion by the board, but the Department of Community and Economic Development is recommending the waiver of all fees associated with applications like this during the pandemic. So we'd ask the board to not charge any fees for this application.
Mr. Ahern, would you agree with that, that we include that in any motion?
Yes, you certainly have the power to do
If
it.
we want to.
Yes, if you so choose. I was on a conference call yesterday where an attorney from the ABCC, Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, it basically stated that the ABCC is, for the time being, ceding their authority to the local licensing boards to do this. Normally, you would have to approve it. It would have to go to the ABCC, and it would take about 6 to 7 weeks to get approval. That's not going to work considering where our restaurants are and where they've been. So you're able as a local licensing board to review these as quickly as you meet for both the common vitular license and the alcohol license.
Okay, and Nora, a little static when you spoke. I want to refer to the order by Governor Baker. So on June 1st, the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, through an order by Governor Baker, order number 35,
That's
changed
correct.
the process for approval of temporary outdoor seating applications to the local licensing authority only. A public hearing and notice to abutters is not required to help streamline application approval for restaurants during COVID-19 social distancing restrictions. So I just want to make sure that's clear for the record. Any questions from the board, Mr. Walsh?
No, I just wish we could do more.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you.
Mr. Hickey? Oh,
John,
you're on mute,
you're muted, John.
I'm sorry. No, I think this is great.
Good. Okay. So, Mr. Walsh, if you
So
will.
I move that we grant approval to Chiara Bistro for a temporary modification of the premises, subject to the existing alcohol license, modification to include the additional temporary outdoor seating shown in the attached plan, pending plan review and successful inspections by the town's public safety department, and all filing fees in connection with this be waived.
Second.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. That's unanimous. Good luck, Steve and Michelle. We know this has been a challenging time, and we're really glad you're part of this community. And it's been great that you've been providing curbside pickup to people during this time, and we hope that this small step forward is productive for you folks. So
Well,
thank you for joining us, and good luck.
Community has been unbelievably supportive.
Yeah.
And we are so fortunate to be in the suburbs and not in the city right now.
Oh, yeah.
And just as a side note, we're on the same boat with the weather. But I
I
have
was
a
thinking that, yes.
storage pod out back holding my tables and chairs. So if you need to use that for your town meeting, you're welcome to.
Okay. All right.
And we're
Good
praying
luck,
for an
okay?
early opening date, so keep
Yeah.
our fingers crossed that it opens on Monday.
Much. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay,
We miss
thank you.
all.
Okay, so our next agenda item is a request for administrative approval procedure for temporary outdoor seating on common vicular license only. I believe we have somebody who is interested in that, but this is more of a generic action that we're being asked to consider. So Nora, why don't you explain to us this piece? It's similar, but it's not exactly alike, and what you would like us to do. Nora, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So in the case of anyone who holds an alcohol and CB license, can you hear me? In the case of
Yes.
any applicant who holds an alcohol license, we cannot waive the procedure of having to come back before the select board to consider applications like this for outdoor seating. However, the governor's executive order allows the select board to establish procedures for administrative review of applications for CV only licenses. We're asking the board to consider doing just that. We have one restaurant so far that is interested in adding outdoor seating. That's BB's Cafe.
Mhm.
We're asking the board to allow an administrative approval process for that application, as well as any subsequent applications that come through from restaurants requesting outdoor seating. There would be a thorough review process. Applications would be taken in by our licensing coordinator, Karen Flynn. They would be reviewed by the town planner, the building commissioner, the health director, the fire chief, the police chief, and the town administrator, and signed off by the clerk of the select board when the approvals are in hand. There would be similar to the one you saw for Kiara's. They would show the exact location of the tables, the number of seats, and the type of barrier that is required. So far we have all information on hand for BB's application, and if the board votes to establish this administrative, we'll be able to continue with that and grant an administrative approval for that application and for others that may come in.
Okay. I think I put an exclamation mark on, I think it's important that there be a final step with the clerk of the select board so that we have a final set of eyes if we provide this kind of administrative relief, which isn't meant to provide any burden, but it is to ensure that what we're doing is complete and in compliance with any action we take. Mr. Walsh, Mr. Hickey, any questions?
No.
No, I'm
not
good
for
with
me.
the plan.
Okay, I see we have representative from BB's. Melinda, could you give Fatna the opportunity to speak?
Hi,
Hi.
this is fascinating.
Hi. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for considering to discuss this issue. And yes, I would love to have temporarily outdoor seating until whenever you guys decide to let me do that. And
Okay.
I'll do my best to make that small spot that I have safe as much as possible. And if I need to put heavy plants, if I need to go all around the spot, I will do that.
Thank you. You know, and I want to say to you as well, we really are happy you're here in the community. And it's our goal to do what we can to help businesses move forward, albeit in small steps. So thank you for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion on this? Nora, anything, any final thoughts? You're all set?
The only other thing I'd like to add is that much like here, we're asking that there be no fee involved in these applications.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walsh, would you like to make a motion?
I'm ready. Okay, I move that we adopt a proactive procedure for the administrative approval of temporary outdoor seating areas at restaurants pursuant to part of the governor's executive order number 35.
You
For
stuck at
temporary,
restaurant. Yeah,
or temporary outdoor seating areas at restaurants, coffee shops, ice cream parlors, or CV only license holders. Said procedures would require the submission of a detailed layout plans and sign off by the building commissioner, the town planner, health director, fire chief, police chief, town administrator, and the select board clerk. And that in addition, all filing fees be waived at this time.
Second.
okay, Nora, is that all good? Just wanna make
Yes,
sure.
it is. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Hick,
Aye.
I say aye as well. So that is unanimously approved. Thank you for bringing that before us, Nora. And if others apply, we wish them well. And to BB's Cafe, move forward with Nora, and hopefully you can have that up and running quickly. All right, we move along. We have a request before us. Let me get to that on our agenda. There is a Freedom of Information Act request before us. Okay. Well, it's not coming up.
Page 46.
It's,
page
I'm just
46.
having technical problems.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll say thank you to that because that will help. 46, okay. We have a request for minutes from We received the request on May 18th, 2020 from Nada Fabrizio, who wants a copy of the executive session minutes and ancillary documents from the August 14th, 2019 meeting of the Town Administrator Screening Committee. Said minutes were not approved for release by the Town Administrator Screening Committee as it disbanded. We disbanded it on November 18th, 2019, and those had not been approved for release. So it comes before us to take this up. Since the Town Administrator Screening Committee had been appointed by the Select Board, we have the authority to release the requested minutes. What is before us is a recommendation that we only release the executive session minutes and that we do not release any of the ancillary documents. And as we have been advised by Town Council, there are public policy concerns over the release of ancillary documents. To release them would have a chilling effect on our ability as a town to recruit and attract qualified candidates at all levels of town government. Therefore, the motion is to release only the minutes. Any discussion?
No, I think
No,
that's
I agree with town council. I think it would have a chilling effect. It's stifling to our ability to function going forward if we were to follow the request as it's written.
I mean, it's pretty clear. If people, apply to these jobs from their own position and wherever they're applying for finds out that they've applied, then that's not going to bode well for the future. So I'm absolutely in favor of this.
And the only time we release names is when people become finalists.
Right.
And they have the option to withdraw their candidacy before we do that. If for whatever reason they do not want to, at that point, become a known applicant to the public. And that sometimes does happen. So the confidentiality that's afforded candidates up until that time is very important to the process. Okay, any comments from Town Council?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you for your advice on this. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, Mr. Walsh?
I move that we approve the release of the executive session meeting minutes from August 14th, 2019 for the Town Administrator Screening Committee and only the executive session minutes
And not ancillary documents.
and not ancillary documents, correct?
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay. On to the next item. We have a request from Mother's Morning Out. Mother's Morning Out, as is widely known in the community, the Board of Directors determined that they would be discontinuing operations. They had been provided the opportunity to move into the new CVS building, well, the old CVS building that's now newly redeveloped. Provisions had been made for them to take occupancy in that building at the same lease rates as we had been providing them for a number of years. And just a little step back in history, when the town purchased the Islington Community Church back 16 years ago, Pat? Something like that? I think it's pretty close to that. When we did so, one of the driving factors in doing that, one of them, there were several, was to allow for the ongoing operations of Mother's Morning Out, which had been a well-established tenant and occupying a very appreciated service in the community for preschoolers. And we had further obligations when we bought, but that was one of our motivating factors, was to allow them to continue to operate. It was a motivating factor in the redevelopment in Islington to provide them with an opportunity to continue to operate. Unfortunately, the Board of Directors has opted not to do so. They come before us now with a formal request that they not be held to lease obligations that would continue until August 31st based on the lease in place with the town. They have asked for this to be effective June 15th. So it would mean that there would be 2.5 months of foregone lease payments. And that's what we're being asked to do. And I believe it is recommended to us that as part of our consideration, or if we approve it, we require and build that into any agreement that gets signed by both parties, that they vacate the premises entirely. I think the appropriate real estate term would be in a broom clean condition. So it would mean that they would take all their capital items, chairs, tables, displays, whatever, and leave the facility in clean, empty condition upon their departure. So that would be a standard expectation that we would have. Any discussion from the board or questions, Mr. Walsh?
So in most real estates, we have, I don't know, a security deposit, for lack of a better term, in case they don't, have it broom swept clean, I think is the real estate term. So I'm okay for signing this. I'm just wondering what our ramifications are if we don't sign it. I mean, if they don't have it emptied by June 15th.
Wouldn't that be a condition, Pat, that they would have to
I
be?
would make my motion contingent upon them having it broom clean by June 15th.
Okay.
Otherwise, the lease remains in effect.
Seek, right, because otherwise we're going to have to, and Nora, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to have to hire someone to go in and do it, and we'll need to use the funds from the rent, the remaining rent to do that.
I think Nora's nodding. Okay, thanks, Nora. Okay, so that
That's
should be,
correct.
okay. John?
No, I like the plan as it is. I'm fine releasing them, but I agree. I think some sort of contingency upon them cleaning it out and parting ways amicably and leaving it in presentable shape is the way to go.
So what should we do, Pat? Should we have an hour of the day on the 15th that there can be a joint inspection of the space?
Sure, that makes sense. I mean, it's like, I would consider the functional equivalent when you purchase a house, you get a walkthrough.
Right.
Beforehand, I think you should also make sure that they agree to a walkthrough on the morning of the 15th, 10 a.m. on the morning of the 15th to make sure that the conditions left properly.
And then have it built into an agreement, again, that both parties sign, that if unsatisfactory, the lease remains in full force and effect.
Correct.
Okay?
Guys are making this motion longer by the second. Yeah, stop.
Only for you,
I
Mr.
know.
Walsh.
I know you can do it.
Okay, are you ready for the motion?
Mr. Walsh, you're having a challenging night, but doing a fine job.
Thank you,
Well,
sir.
let me just say something before you do that. We're supportive of their request. I don't want that to get lost in the discussion.
Yes, we are.
It's just,
Eventually, yes.
it's a business transaction and we have to make sure we do it
Right.
correctly for the town.
Okay. Now you're ready.
Ready?
I move that we approve MMO, known as Mother's Morning Out's request for the termination of its lease effective June 15th, 2020, after a walkthrough at a mutually agreeable time, preferably 10 a.m., to ensure that the premises are broom swept clean and that they would vacate the Islington Center property and remove all belongings on or before that date, or else the lease shall remain in effect until a later date,
Until August 31st
until August 31st. of
Okay,
2020.
second.
of 2020. Okay, Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, so again, we're sad that they've decided not to continue their operations. And we hope that we wish them all well, all parties involved, and we'll work with them and make sure that everything is in compliance, that we're there to have a walkthrough with them so that they can be relieved of the lease obligation, assuming it's satisfactory. And Chris,
Nancy,
we'll leave it to you to decide who would participate in that walkthrough.
Nancy, do you mind if I just say something? I mean, I think,
Yep.
Having gone through the election and this became a major issue, I just want to say that, for years, it's always been a continuing lease 1 year to 1 year, even though they had the opportunity to go for a longer term lease. It has always remained at 1 year to provide them whenever they decided to close, the opportunity was there without a long-term lease.
Yeah, without the lease obligation. And it was, as I said, about 16 years with the town owning the property and facilitating them being part of the redevelopment and having brand new space, but, you know, the decision was in their hands to make. Okay, we're done with the MMO discussion, so let's go on to, we're getting close to the end, everybody. I know this has been long. Long relative to what we've been doing lately, I guess is what I should say. Let's see. Next item, we're being asked to form an advisory committee to review strategies for when or if there is a consolidation of 2 elementary schools as a result of the school building project. And this request is a part of the Mass School Building Association process. It's a requirement that we provide a process that looks at a school, should it be vacated and turned over from the school department to the municipal side of the town government. And at our meeting on June 21st, we had been given a status update on the school building project by lead representative of Dora and Whittier, Don Walter. The superintendent of schools and the school building committee chair were also present. At the time, it was discussed that the select board consider appointing a subcommittee, so we were given the heads up that we would need to be doing this and asked to do so in the spring to review strategies for when or if there is a consolidation of schools due to the school building project. That process is making its way towards the school building committee taking a vote in mid-June regarding which option to proceed with. But whatever option, there's going to be a consolidation of 2 schools into 1 in terms of the project scope. So Chris Coleman has before us at this time to create a committee, not necessarily populating it. And I think this, I really look to John to provide input as he is the incoming chair, and under normal circumstances, he would already be chair. But we just have before us this request to create it. And I don't know, John, if you have thoughts on how you would want to have us ask Chris to populate the committee. I have advice, but I don't know if you've already given it some thought.
No, I mean, I guess for me tonight was about socializing it. And I guess, Chris, I am curious what our peer communities have done. What's the makeup of this? What's the size of it? What type of subject matter experts are we looking for? So, I don't think that we need to take a vote tonight on this. Typically,
can't we create the committee though? I mean, we don't have it populated, but say I don't know. Chris?
It seems a little out of our norm, and I guess I'm a little hesitant to vote to create a committee that we can't define the size of it. The scope obviously is what the state is going to give us, but I'm just a little nervous having us vote on something that's very ambiguous at this point. And I think, Nancy, the other piece though is, to your earlier point, the vote hasn't even occurred yet.
No, we have to, well, I don't know, Chris, this needs to be in place for what goes to the school building committee in July. The vote of the school building committee is, I think, June 19th. I think it's June 19th.
And Madam Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
They're coming before you, or a portion of that committee is coming before you on your June 15th meeting.
So would consistent with what John is suggesting, would it be okay if, as he's saying, we normalize this discussion, we have it be clear that we're moving towards something and we need collectively, thoughts to be shared with you, Chris, and you come up with a recommendation for the 15th as to how we populate that committee?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, I guess the ideal for me is, and again, I have no idea. Typically, we would look at what the size would be, and you can tell us that, and get some ideas from the 3 of us individually about who may be best for that. So I guess my ask would be, between now and the 15th, you come up with a recommendation for the structure and potential folks to fill it. If that works for Michael and Nancy, for the 2 of you, I think that's how I just feel more comfortable than voting on something. And I'm not really sure.
It would be okay. I mean, I'm okay either way, saying we've created the committee and populate it later, but I don't think there's an absolute necessity. But I do think we should target the 15th so that there's no issue with timing, that we do have it in place, so there's compliance with what's
Yeah,
required.
I'm totally aligned with you on that.
Great, okay.
Madam
Michael,
Chair,
thoughts?
In future chair, just to say that as my understanding, this is an MSBA requirement, and as part of the submission for July 1st, it's that the committee is formed and not that the committee has been identified as far as who is on that committee, just to be clear. I'm happy to provide you with the information that you would like for June 15th.
Okay, well, why don't you, explore what others have done, and you can talk to us offline individually. Pam, do you have any thoughts on that you want to express? I know you've been sitting in.
No, I think that's fine. I think it just needs to happen as part of the package that goes to MSBA.
Right, okay. And then, I would think, it's just my expectation is that a lot of it's internal because it's operational use. It's what might the needs be? How could the building potentially be useful? And one thing that hasn't happened, we're talking about something that is a hypothetical. The schools first have to make the determination that they don't want to continue to hold on to the building. And that has to be a vote of the school committee before it actually is something that comes to the town for its.
And Nancy, is that something that this committee makes a recommendation to them about, or?
No, this would be the aftermath of them.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean the committee can't start working. And the school department could say, this is swing space. We need to hold on to it for a period of 3 years. But eventually we're going to turn it over. So it is still helpful to have a committee look at that eventuality. Okay, how does that line up to other space needs that the town has or opportunities? What could it present? It also matters for budgeting, because one of the buildings, if it gets turned over, needs capital investment because they are not in a condition of long-term sustainable use. And that's one of the issues that's come out of the whole discussion with the school building committee, is that these buildings are very old, systems are old, they've been maintained, but their useful lives are have come to the end of that line, and we need to be aware of all the implications. But what the school MSBA says is they don't want to hear that the building that may be given over to the town then goes on the for sale block. That is something that they are opposed to because it happened previously. So part of the requirement is a discipline that so they're comfortable that a municipality isn't doing it, then turning around and selling the property. And it's just their concern. And that's part of what we're part of is the MSBA process. And we need to be compliant in that regard. Okay, so we've had the discussion, it's out there. Let's bring it back on the meeting closer to, I guess we've talked about having a meeting on the 15th. I guess that will come up on our agenda here. So guys, we have minutes. That's the next thing. I did not have time to review them, I have to say. Is there any pressure on this? I know, Tish, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
You did the work.
I did. It's done.
Tish does the work, unless,
No,
okay.
but if we can push it off, I'd prefer.
Okay, so I'm not the only one, Tish.
No, you're
Let's
not.
blame it
That's
on
fine.
John.
That's okay.
Slackers.
blame
I'm
it
telling
on
you,
John.
slackers. That's it.
Oh, so you've had all the time in the world, huh?
Yeah.
Campaign season's done for now? Or
Yes.
that one anyway?
Correct.
Okay, so public and press. Melinda, do we have anybody queued up?
Yes.
Yes, we have, sorry about that.
We have, what would he like to say?
We have a little boy running around. Last one I just wanted to read was from Dave Atkins, and he wrote that there will be a demonstration Saturday at 5 p.m. at High Street and Gay Street, a peaceful and a peace and justice vigil for the Black Lives Matter take-in.
Okay, and I did mention that at the top of the meeting, so we'll close on that note that people are invited Saturday, June 6th, 5 p.m., Gay Street and High Street. And please, everybody, be safe. It is still a roadway right through there, so we need to be smart about that. Anything else from the esteemed assemblage of people at this meeting? It's been good to see all of you and work with you this afternoon. Anything else? Chris, have I missed anything? Please tell me I didn't.
I think we covered everything.
Okay, and I know Melinda has to go set up for a public meeting for the school building project that the school committee is hosting tonight. And so I wish them well with that meeting. They've certainly had a lot of public sessions, and I know we've heard, working on the committee, how valuable the community input has been. We've been hearing that from the consultants working on this project, including the design team. They really called out how impressed they are with the conversations and the input and the ideas that have come through those public meetings. So good luck to the school department tonight with that. So thank you, everybody. When are we next convening, Chris? 15th or to be determined?
The next scheduled meeting is Monday, June 15th.
Okay, 7:30 p.m.?
I believe, Tish, I believe so, because, yes, 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so next meeting, Monday, June 15th.
A meeting on a Monday, imagine that.
Back to norms. Pat?
Well, 15th, yeah, that's 2 days before town meeting.
Yeah.
Traditionally, the board has always met a half an hour before town meeting. If you don't feel like you need it this year, that's fine. I just want to raise that.
I do, and I also want to comment that we need to come up with a date, and John, I'm sure you are in conversations with Chris and Tish, but we need a meeting after town meeting to reconstitute the board. As I've mentioned a few times, the way we rotate, we have a practice, a protocol that we can predict that John is the incoming chair. And so we need to have that meeting soon afterwards, because I've been keeping the seat warm for a little bit too long here. It's time to pass it along. Okay?
Done great. Yeah, well, I'll talk to Chris. That might be a tough week if we get rain. So.
Well, if you want to do it at 7 p.m. on the 17th, it's okay with me too.
Okay.
So
All right. We'll talk.
you guys figure it out. Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you,
Mr.
everybody.
Walsh? Thank you.
I feel very Irish at these meetings. Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
I say aye as well. Have a good night, everybody, and
Thank
thank you
you
for
all.
your time.
Good night.